Well, I hope you enjoyed the Museum of What Was, or as I've been calling it in my head, Everly Heights the Musical. Now, this episode is based on a period of my life of about a year where I had to move back to Wheeling after I moved here to Los Angeles and honestly fell flat on my face. The main character, a failing salesman, is based on my grandfather, Don Holmes, aka Pap or Pap Pap. Now, Pap sold keychains, pens, and the like as a traveling salesman in the 90s and early 2000s. In fact, in a lot of my career, I've had to deal with salesmen just like my Pap, since my day job has always involved marketing and graphic design to some degree. There's a lot of crossover with merchandising, marketing, and graphic design, let me tell you. And while the story of this musical is based on my story of going back to Wheeling and realizing I definitely shouldn't be there, I did my best impression of my Pap while I portrayed Don House to honor him. I miss you, Pap.
Show surprises left in me. And I know it's vacant where we're laying, but don't you go away escaping all that telling you just too so weary.
Speaking of sad shit, Ryan, the guitar playing character from this episode, is based on a friend I had growing up named Ryan Hord, who was an excellent musician and who we also lost way too soon. Ryan was maybe the most talented guitar player who ever slept on my couch. Ryan also taught me how to play guitar. A lot of people don't know this. I used to be in a band back in the day, Classic Tragic Hero, and that would have never happened if it wasn't for Ryan. I'll be talking a little bit about Classic Tragic Hero more in a moment, but I love Ryan. I love what he did for me artistically as a friend. And I think one of my biggest regrets in life is that I kind of lost contact with him for a few years before he passed away. I don't know if I could have helped him, but, at least I could have been a friendly voice, Yeah, and he was affected by the opioid epidemic that is all over the Ohio Valley and has been for several years now. I think they've got it a little better, but I've lost a lot of friends, honestly, from high school, college, and just tooling around Wheeling to the opioid epidemic. It's a town that lost its hope for a while. I think it's getting it back, but it left a lot of hopeless people desperate for something. And, I don't know who brought the drugs into the area. There wasn't really a lot of opioids or heroin or anything in the area when I was a kid, but they brought it in and they took advantage of people. And that's a shame. On to happier stuff. Gaston, the shady restaurant owner, is based on a particular restaurant owner with a lot of shady dealings that I washed dishes for a million years ago. I'm not going to mention his name or the name of the restaurant or anything like that because he still might be around and he always scared me a little bit. But if you're from Wheeling, you probably know within 2 or 3 guys who I'm talking about. There's a lot of shadiness in Wheeling. Last but not least, the character Farah is based on my first girlfriend/relationship, which you can probably imagine from the contents of that scene didn't go great. Now, a lot of the details mentioned in the song are based on things she did during the year or so we were together. Frankly, the whole thing really kind of screwed me up on relationships for a few years. Luckily, I've shaken the pain off. Sadly, the scars remain. But I think it made for a kick-ass song. Now, as far as the music, in the past, whenever I've had a project that required some music, I would always go to my friend Stephen Carroll from Wheeling, because we used to have a band together called Classic Tragic Hero.
I ain't happy, I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. My future is coming on. I ain't happy, I'm feeling glad I got sunshine all up in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. My future is coming on. Now stop, collaborate and listen. Ice is back with my brand new invention. Something, grab a hold of me tightly, hit me like a harpoon, alien.
We had some mild success in the early days of YouTube with a couple of music videos and a couple of other things where podcasts used our songs for their theme songs, things like that. But otherwise, you've probably never heard of it. But it holds a very special place in my heart. And sadly, much like a lot of the other people I've talked about in this episode, Steve passed away a few years ago. Now, if you go to my YouTube channel at Bill Meeks LA, I have an episode of Where I'm From completely dedicated to Steve, where I talk about Classic Tragic Hero and, our creative collaborations over the years.
Girl, you are a pretty one.
And, I miss him like hell. He was actually on board to help with this project, but, then sadly he passed away. And in some ways, I think, that probably gave me pause on the project a little bit too, because I'm like, if I'm not doing it with Steve, why am I doing it a little bit? Steve was a great musician. He was a church pianist when I knew him in high school. But very quickly, he got into the world of synthesizers and MIDI keyboards and samples and all this other stuff, to where he basically had a whole orchestra in his parents' basement.
From CDs to iPods, internet downloads, or playing the hymns at church, music and electricity have been partners for over 120 years. Stephen Carroll of Wheeling plays to the congregation of the New Life United Methodist Church every Sunday on a virtual pipe organ he built.
This idea started a couple years ago with just one keyboard at my house and sampler software where you can play pipe organ sounds with a keyboard at your house. So I got to thinking, why couldn't you design something that would be like a pipe organ to use in the church? We've called it virtual pipe organ because it's not really a pipe organ, it's virtual. I want to say this was a Hammond organ. We gutted everything inside and out, and that took about a week to get all the circuit boards and everything out of it, and designed the casing to hold two.
So I say all that to say, I miss Steve as a creative collaborator. I almost would not want to do any music without him. So I decided to use modern technology to do the best I could to simulate Steve still being with us. What I did was I took all of our Classic Tragic Heroes tracks, probably about an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes worth of music, and I fine-tuned AI music model on it. So while the voice doesn't always sound like me, a lot of times it does, while the music doesn't always sound like Steve, a lot of times it does. And that model allows me to sit down and write a song on the guitar, sing it with my shitty voice, and then I can take that, pass it through this Classic Tragic Hero model I have, and produce a song that sounds like something me and Steve probably would have produced back in the day. Now, I know a lot of people have issues with AI, especially in the creative arts. I see this as a valid and moral use case for it, because I would go to Steve. I was going to go to Steve for stuff like this. And Steve's not there anymore. And all I have left is a couple hours of work that we did together. We did a lot more than a couple hours of work on it, but the couple of hours resulting work. And if I can use AI to bring a spark of classic tragic hero to my current creative output, if nothing else to keep Steve's memory alive in my head, then I think it's a totally justifiable use. You might disagree. I'd love to hear your comments. Shoot me an email, billmeeks@everlyheights.tv. But bottom line, I'm writing the songs, I'm playing the songs. The AI is really working more like an advanced auto-tune combined with a synthesizer maybe, or a beat machine. You know, I sit down, I play the song on the guitar, I've put together the chord arrangement, the melody, and then the AI takes it across the finish line and does what Steve used to do for me. Yeah, I will say a couple of the songs in this episode are actually rewrites of some of our classic tragic hero songs. Like, for example, the opening song from Dawn House, Home Again. That was one of the last classic tragic hero branded songs we worked on together. I have a link to a YouTube video I'll throw into the show notes for you. You can go watch me play it live in an attic about 12 years ago.
You've been out so long on your own. You've heard my siren call. Don't follow it, you'll fall. It won't take you back home again. Recall simple times. All your friends still lead their same old lives without you by their side. Could they take you back home again? You belong back home. Your new life can't wait. You could tell your tale. You could make things great. You could kid yourself.
Now it's time to point out some Everly Heights connections. Now, Gaston and Ryan from this episode are both major players in Curtain Call. But Ryan shows up for the first time in the Everly Heights story Kids Like Us, about a group of 90s teens connecting over small-town punk rock as the older kids decide if they want to leave town after high school or stick around and become a townie. That being said, I do have Kids Like Us tagged as a story I'm going to be adapting in the next round of Everly Heights Tales. So if you want to, you can just wait. Now, as we wrap up here, I have a question for you. Have you ever gone back to your hometown? What was different? And what was depressingly the same? Shoot me an email or an audio voicemail at billmeeks@everlyheights.tv, and we'll share them in a future episode. And I've been Bill Meeks. You can check out everything we do related to Everly Heights at everlyheights.tv. You can check out everything I do, including my social media handles and all that. It's usually at Bill Meeks, at billmeeks.com. And again, if you want to send any feedback, billmeeks@everlyheights.tv. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Come back next week for another episode. And remember, you can leave Everly Heights, but the magnet has a way of pulling you back. Good night.